Rachel live, and we're going to be sharing another top 5 about China. Hey, Lauren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. I'm so happy to be here back with another top five. We're talking about just our wonderful lives as expats, so it's gonna be fun.
It's going to be super fun. Yeah, so Lauren, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're talking about, we've been in China for 5 years. We know a thing or two about the perks and the best things that it's like living as an expat or living as a foreigner, a non-Chinese person in China. It has some nice things about it, you know?
Yeah. There are some like difficult things with moving to China. There are some challenges, culture shock, language barriers. So it's easy to focus on some of those like difficult things. But we want to focus on once you get through those things and conquer some of those things in China, there are so many great things about living in China. And there's so many reasons why people want to live and work here. So we're going to jump right into that today and share our top 5 favorite things about being an expat in China. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. Let's get into it.
Okay. Okay, number one, food is cheap and delicious. So, in our last video, our last top 5 video, we talked about some of our favorite food dishes in China and shared some of those things. And so, we had to mention this again because the food is a huge benefit of living in China.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I think one of the biggest things, especially for both of us coming from the States, like eating out is like expensive. If you're wanting to be reasonable with money, you usually cook more and eat out less. But in China, you're able to find food out, whether it be street food, restaurant food, like a small shop food, you're able to find it very reasonably priced and just eat it all the time and never cook. And you're eating delicious food. It's amazing.
I know this is a little bit embarrassing, but like I never cook in China, like never. But because it's so easy to find, cheap food that are, so many different variety types and different options. And so it's very cheap and affordable to eat out all the time, eat out every meal, especially if you're eating local Chinese meals and eating
Hmm.
how Chinese people would eat here in China. Like you can find noodles 12 yuan for like, even
Yes.
cheaper some places. And other dishes. So good. And you can even go out to a big meal in China, share a bunch of dishes with lots of friends, and it still ends up being like 30 kwai, like $5. It's amazing and it's so nice. So unless you're like eating out like Starbucks and like all these fancy foreign restaurants every meal, you can save money on food because you're not spending a lot for normal kind of meals out here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was thinking about that the other day because I was looking through old pictures and I was looking through some of the pictures of when both of us were first starting to travel a lot in China. And I remember both of us went through like a time where Chinese food is so diverse, and so it definitely took, I think, both of us a time of like learning how Chinese food is and learning what we like and learning potentially what dishes we might like to try and things. It takes some time to kind of get your brain wrapped around it. And I remember during that time because I think I didn't and you didn't want to like have the stress of trying to figure out and order Chinese food. We ate so much like Western food, like McDonald's and Starbucks, and we spent so much money on like basic like kids
Yes.
meals. It was ridiculous.
Oh my god, I remember that. That's our first spring festival when we were traveling
Mhm.
like in Suzhou and Hangzhou, and we were just getting
Mhm.
tired because in the beginning when you're like learning about Chinese dishes and you can't read Chinese and you can barely speak it and you don't know what the local
And
regional
there's no
dishes are and
pictures.
what the specialties to try, it can be a little bit tiring to figure it out. Yeah, and there's no pictures. It can be exhausting to try to figure all that out. So I remember we were just like, whatever, we're gonna eat more Western food, spend a lot of money on it. It was a good learning experience. But I remember when we first moved to Hunan, it was the best to have some Chinese friends who could help us show those dishes to order and tell us like, look for these characters and like ask for
Yeah.
this. And we would like write down notes on a WeChat and like in our phones to remember those kind of things. And eventually get more familiar with the dishes and know what you like and what to order. And worst case, you can always just point to something on the menu and see what you get.
Oh, I remember like I think I did that maybe once on like a menu without any photos or anything. Because I think that's the thing. That's like
Oh, you
I
did?
yeah, because you would be like you would try to order like you're like what could go wrong with chicken? Like what could possibly be a bad
Yeah,
chicken
I know the
dish?
chicken character. It just could be good.
It's like chicken intestines. Like it's like you just had it's there's a learning curve with ordering and figuring out and understanding Chinese food. And if you're not with Chinese people, if you're at a brand new restaurant, it's just better to go safe than sorry. Just stick with some noodles or some rice and you'll be okay.
Yes. You'll be okay. Exactly. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about our best thing about being an expat in China, and that is the opportunity to travel. So, living in China, you have a really great schedule, especially if you're a teacher in China. So, first off, you have like Chinese holidays, you have Spring Festival, National Week, which is like a week in October, and various other holidays throughout the year. And you usually have a nice summer holiday and a nice like long winter holiday depending on the school that you work for. So you have plenty of time to travel, which is something I didn't have a lot of time to do when I was in the States or when I was like living as a student. I either didn't have money or I didn't have the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the best things about like having that time to travel, and we talked about food is cheap, so the idea of when you're going and traveling, like you're eating out a lot more. That like to begin with is a very cheap process. But the best thing about China is that it's just so easy and cheap to travel because of mostly the high speed train system. It's so different than the States where you either have to fly or drive.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
yeah, traveling all across China or really even internationally going to, you're in China, so you're in the heart of, all the countries in Southeast Asia. It's just very accessible, like you were saying.
Absolutely. So you've got the time to travel and you've got the convenience to travel. And especially now, there's all these like different apps that make it really easy as a foreigner to travel in China. And you can download and buy train tickets in English. And you can buy train tickets that are pretty affordable. Like even
Mm,
the high speed train, it goes 300 kilometers an hour. It's amazing. But the tickets aren't usually that expensive and you're able to travel really far. Or you can get sleeper trains and they're a lot cheaper and like have a nice little nap when you're taking a trip somewhere. So it's
exactly.
cool to have the opportunity to do that. Like, it's so weird. I've actually traveled a lot more in China than I have actually in America. And I've seen more cities here and done a
Yeah.
lot more just because we had the time with our schedule and it just, I have the money now that I'm like teaching and living on my own and I'm not busy like as a student or working.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
been really cool.
If any of you guys are curious or if you've been on a train, there's a very big difference between the high speed train and the slow train. Now, sleeper trains, if you get a sleeper bed and a sleeper car, they're nice on the slow train. But Rachel and I have experienced getting a hard sitting seat in a slow train for like 7 hours. Do you remember we went to Shenzhen or something? Or like outside of Hong
Yes,
Kong?
yes.
Never
Oh
again.
my gosh, because we were traveling with Andy and Raymond, 2 of our Chinese
Hmm.
students, and they were like, "Hey, we wanna save some money, we can just take the hard seat train, it's fine." And we were like, "Yeah, okay, cool, cool, cool." It was like 7 hours, no problem.
Yeah,
But
you're sitting. It's
that was the first
fine.
time we ever rode on one. We got on, you're crammed in, and, like, there aren't, like, individual seats either. You're, like, on a bench, and, like, you're all,
Hmm.
like, smushed in together, and, like, people are walking by, and, it wasn't comfortable. But we survived. We did okay. But you know what? I've
Exactly.
actually heard stories of people who do those kind of trains for like 20 hours. So I'm grateful that it was just 7 hours and not like 20 hours long.
Yeah. I mean, like like in a
Could have been
last ditch effort
worse.
in like an emergency, I guess I could, but I would hate every minute of it. Like I would not be going
Yeah,
willingly.
yeah. Nope. Nope. Me either. I remember on the way back from Hong Kong, then we were like, we're gonna take a high speed train.
You're like,
You guys,
oh,
that's
okay,
not young.
we'll shell out the extra 100 kwai. Like it wasn't like it really wasn't that big of a difference. But us as
It wasn't that big of a
teachers
jump.
compared to students, it was a difference. But for us, we're like, nope, no, thank you.
Nope, gonna jump up. That kind of leads into our next one for our favorite things about being an expat, and that is the great cost of living. So as we kind of mentioned before, the food is cheap, traveling is very convenient and pretty cheap. So overall, your salary, no matter what kind of school or where you're working at, usually it's great and it's enough that you can live very comfortably and you don't spend a lot because daily conveniences and daily expenses aren't that expensive, which is amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, especially like I think for both of us, we lived in very, very small cities that, have a very like a tier 3 city that is cheaper for everything, cost of living, rent, food, everything. And we've lived in bigger cities like Beijing, tier 1, much higher cost of living. But even with the higher cost of living, it's still so reasonable that like you're still able to save money if you want to save money or be irresponsible like me and just spend all your money. And you can also, travel and you can go out and you can like not really the idea of worrying about money for the average expat in China, especially if you're not a student, you're working, you have a job as an expat in China, you're on a regular basis, you're not worrying about money with just your daily life cost of living, and it's really nice.
Totally. And you can also afford some like extra little luxury things that you probably wouldn't be able to afford back home. We were talking about like upgrading to like, high speed train from slow train. So just like things like that, you don't stress about the cost of like, you're like, okay, I can spend another 100 kwai, $15 on that because I can afford that. Or like little things like getting a massage. I would
Hmm.
never get a massage back in the States. That would be so expensive. But here, you can find like a local Chinese place, and just little luxuries like that. I'm getting a call. Sorry,
Popular
Candace, I can't
WeChat.
talk right now. Um, watch my live stream. Yeah, so little luxuries like that are really nice. So you can afford things like that. Oh, we got a comment from Rudy. Hey, Rudy! Rudy is a teacher that I met several months ago here in
Oh,
China.
nice.
He came with Career China. So he said, "Hi, girls. Thank you, Rachel, for being a great welcoming face when we first arrived in China a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago? Is it that long ago?
Wow.
Wow. We couldn't even get on a subway, and you had to pick us up at the hotel with my wife going to training with me because she was too scared to stay at the hotel first day. Now we're traveling like pros and loving China. Great time living in China." Rudy
Yeah.
and his wife live in Shenyang in northern China, and they are killing the China game, and it's so exciting to see people like who just arrived in China go from the challenges and being nervous and afraid, just like we were, to like thriving and
Mhm.
living your best life here. Honestly, that's the coolest thing. Figure China out, and then you're
Yes.
just going everywhere. So that's cool.
Yes,
Yay, Rudy, you're
exactly.
awesome. Um, yes, so cool. Anything else about cost of living?
I also wanted to mention, yeah, so Rachel and I are two non-married, motherless women living in China, which
Mhm.
adds to our cost of
Yes.
living. Like
Did you
we're
say
worrying about
motherless?
ourselves. Yes, we're motherless. Oh, sorry, we're childless. Wow, sorry, mom.
Our moms are there. There's my mom might be watching.
Yes, we are
We
childless
have moms,
women.
but we don't have children.
Yes. Yes. And so, with us being, without those responsibilities, it definitely gives us a lot more freedom with our money and what we get to spend it on with our cost of living. So, very good.
Definitely. And with that said, like, yeah, we are single living by ourselves. And also depends on the city and like where you want to be in the city. We've gone from Hanyang, really small city with lower salary teaching, but it was very, very cheap living in that small city. Then I moved
Hmm.
to Guangzhou, you moved to Dongguan. Cost of living got a little bit more expensive, but still cheap. And then now in Beijing, I feel like daily expenses are still cheap. It's just bigger things like the rent that are going to cost a lot of
Hmm.
money. So the cost of living may change depending on where in the city you want to live. Like Lauren and I live in the city center of Beijing, and it is more expensive living in the city center
Yeah.
versus if you have a roommate, you want to split the cost, versus if you want to live outside the city, you can still find very affordable options. Um, so it kind of just depends how you want to spend your money and how you want to save, how much you want to save, those kind of things to consider when you're considering the cost of living.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Okay. Let's talk about our fourth thing. Our fourth item is, let me see. Oh, it is the high-tech life of China. So, Lauren, tell us about the high-tech life in China.
I mean, I feel like overall China is such an oxymoron. Like it's one of the oldest countries in the world, but it's so modern in so many senses, especially when it comes to technology and the daily use of technology in a very modern sense. So us coming from the United States, like, like, oh, like, like we have the internet, we have smartphones, like it's all like physically like the everyday tech, I guess, devices are pretty up to date. But when it comes to using technology to replace old ways, I mean, my favorite thing about China is ePay and paying by phone, paying by WeChat, Alipay,
Mm.
comparable to like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay in the States. But yeah, it's everywhere from like the most big cities to the smallest like farm towns in China. You can use ePay, and that just opens up a whole world of everything for you. And I miss it so much. I'm here in the States right now, waiting to go back to China. And when I tell you that I have to, like, the amount of times I've forgotten my wallet at home because I'm so used to just carrying my phone, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is my
What about
favorite
you,
thing about living
Rachel? What
in
do you
China
think?
is you literally can walk out the door with just your phone and you have everything that you need because it's got WeChat. You can message your friends. It's can you hear now? Lauren's gone. Are you here,
Yes. Oh, it's
Lauren?
reconnecting. I'm
Okay.
coming back.
Oh, there we go.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, I see you. I see you. Okay. So I was adding on to what you said, and I just mentioned, like, yeah,
Hmm.
that's my favorite thing about living in China is I can literally just walk out without my phone, with my phone and nothing else, and that's all you need in China. And in China, there's like an app for everything. You can find an
Hmm.
app, all the same apps that you would have or want to use in the States, like, just like for buying movie tickets and like ordering food and Wi-Fi and all these things. There's literally like an app for everything. So the high tech life is really cool. It's very different than I ever expected. I didn't know China was going to be this like high tech advanced.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that sense, like where it's like very like kind of the the things that are becoming more popular, especially for us Americans, like here in the States, China's been doing it for a few years already. And it's even like old people use it. Like it's not just young people that it's trendy with.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody uses it. Like you mentioned, like even when you go to small villages, when I've been traveling in like really small places, they like you want to buy a bottle of water, like you can pay with money, of course, but like they'll flash their like QR code at you, and it's like this
Hmm.
70-year-old like tiny Chinese woman, and you're like, okay, okay, this
Yeah.
is amazing. It's amazing. So the technology is really, really cool and interesting to see in China. Um, so here's our last one. Our favorite best thing about living in China is living and working in an international environment.
Yeah. So Rachel, why don't you explain what what that means when when we talk about like an international environment in China?
I would love to. So I think one of the coolest things about living in China is not only are you in, a different culture, working in China, getting to interact with, local Chinese people and your Chinese students, or wherever you are in your work environment, but you're also meeting so many people from all over the world as well who have come to China to work. Like when we first moved to China, we lived in a small city, but there were still foreigners from all over the world. There was like Australians, people from Europe and England and Ireland and different things like that. And I don't think I had ever been in such an immersive intercultural kind of working experience. And even now in Beijing, it's grown even more. There's foreigners from everywhere doing all kinds of jobs. Of course, just I'm from Texas and I'm from small town Texas, so I just had never experienced that before. And so it's a huge benefit to meet people from all over the world and have the chance to learn a lot and to just work with a variety of different people that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's been really cool for me as well. It's just like it's physically in the working environment, having coworkers that are from any country, let alone like you're literally working in China, so you're already in a foreign environment, and you have lots of Chinese, like you have Chinese neighbors, you have Chinese coworkers, you have Chinese friends. So, but I think I was definitely surprised at that as well when it came to just the other. I think in my mind it was like, oh, I'm unique. I'm moving to China as an American. Like there's something different about me. Whereas like there's literally foreigners from all over the world, every country, every ethnicity. Everyone's there in China, and it's so cool because like you're living in one country but you're getting exposed to like thousands.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool because even now, like, we live in like little hutong neighborhoods in Beijing, which is very local China. So you're surrounded
Yeah.
by Chinese local neighbors. So I'll walk out in the morning and be like, "Hey, ni hao, zhao sheng hao." And then like I literally like I'll go to a shopping mall or go to work or I'll go hang out with my friends, and then I'm hanging out with people, like yeah, from Africa and all these different countries. And I play on a volleyball team and I play with people from all over the world, and it's so cool to see what brought people here to China, why they've chosen to stay, all these different things that you have the chance to do because you live and work in China.
Yeah, and I think that's something I don't know, just like it's a very cool thing to be doing like in life. And so I think for us, we're not just living in a foreign country, we're working, like we have our lives there in China, and in Beijing
Mm-hmm.
it's a very
Mm-hmm.
like if you think of like the cities of the world that are international cities, Beijing is one of those. And so I don't know, it's just like sometimes it's like very surreal of like, wow, like my life is here, and like this is normal life for
Yeah,
me. Like that's crazy.
yeah, that is really cool. And I think that's one of the coolest things I think people don't realize about China is you can set up your home and your life here and have a very normal life. Like it's not like every day we're doing like, traditional Chinese kung fu and like, you can do that, which is awesome, but you can have a
Rachel,
very
what are you talking
balanced,
about? I
traditional
do
Chinese. Oh my gosh, I'm
every
so
morning.
sorry. Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot. You are so dedicated. So anyways, Lauren is much more dedicated than I am. So yeah, I love that though. And you can like play Tai Chi and you can like hang out with local people, eat lots of Chinese food, but you also have that balance of like, I'm gonna go to the pub and have some drinks with some friends, or like go play trivia night, go to the movies, all these things. And I play volleyball. You have all these expat groups that you can join. You can set up a very balanced life here and also like try new international things. So it's really, you can choose the life that you want to create here and find lots of opportunities because of all the international like surroundings here.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think I can speak for myself, but I think I would definitely speak for both of us a little bit of like when we first moved to China. I think, a lot of people move to China thinking like, I'm gonna move to China and have this, worldly differently experience about learning about Chinese culture. And it is that, but it doesn't have to only be that, because at the end of the day, we're foreigners living in a foreign country, and we sometimes want to have things that remind us of home and familiar things, or Western things. And so I think That's something that living in a bigger city provides, but not everyone wants that in their experience with China. Some people really like the small town, where they're the only foreigner. They fully like they're in Chinese culture now, and so it's really up to you what you're wanting and what you're wanting to make your life. It's up to you.
Totally. I think you create the experience that you want here, and you can find the experience you want here, whether it's small city, like Lauren mentioned, or bigger city. So you can really create what you want and get what you want out of living in China.
Exactly. If you want to do it the best way, I think in my opinion, the best way to do China, especially long term, do small town China first and like learn to love China that way. And then if you can survive small town China, like you can do like you'll be fine anywhere. Like and you'll learn a lot, especially initially, that will make living in a bigger city even easier. So
Totally. I'm so glad that we had the experience of living in a small city. As difficult as it was at first in the beginning, it was like culture shock, like definitely for a solid 3 months at least. And figuring things out. But like once, yeah, like you said, once we've learned to love the experience and learn how to survive in a small city, it became so much easier to live in Beijing. And honestly, I don't think I would want to go back to a small city now, but like moving bigger and bigger and having that experience of growing and learning to love China in that way was really instrumental, I think, in wanting to stay in
mhm,
China longer.
I completely agree.
Hmm. Great, great. So living and working in an international environment, definitely one of the best things about living in China.
For sure, for
So Lauren
sure.
and I, we talked about 5 different things that are benefits of living and working in China. Of course, there are many other benefits here that we didn't have time to mention or time to like touch on. So if you guys are watching and you live in China, comment below. Let us know what your favorite things are about being an expat in China. What are some other benefits? Or if you have any questions about living in China, we would be happy to chat with you about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We would love to. Yeah, we definitely want to hear your
Amazing.
feedback about yeah, I was just saying we definitely want to hear your feedback and what what is one of your favorite things about living in China? Like why are this is our fifth year. Are you in year 15? Like why have you been here 15 years? There's a lot of long time expats out there. Um and there's reasons for it. We love our lives.
Oh, I think there was a delay. Okay,
Yeah,
caught up again. But yeah, like Lauren said, let us know, comment below, let us know why we wanted to stay in China. And Lauren and I are about to celebrate our 5-year Chinaversary, or all month long, basically we've been celebrating. So we're gonna create some more exciting content. So check out Lauren's channels. You can find her at Lauren's China Life on YouTube, Instagram, everything like that. And you can find me on Rachel Meets China on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. So stay tuned for some more content about our 5 years in China. So thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you guys on our next top 5. Bye.
bye.